we are asset-based lenders. We're not really picky on, looking at a bunch of information for the past. We really look at three things. One of them, we do a soft pull on FICO. We look at, red flags like, missed mortgage payments or past bankruptcies. Another thing is we don't do income verification. We really just look at liquidity, like two, three bank statements showing that, you can cover closing costs, you have the reserves available. Or the last thing, I guess, would be experience. We deal with new investors all the time, but, obviously if you have experience, that helps in the interest rate, that helps in the origination. Really, that's the three things we look at versus, with big banks, they really look, they dive deep into your history. They look at, debt to income, debt to income ratio. They look at, all these extra things, that it is a time consuming thing. We are able to close, deals within a week, assuming
Yeah.
all the paperwork goes through. Meanwhile, banks take months sometimes. And
And then I guess for anyone listening, that can be the benefit of working with, for all intents and purposes compared to big banks, kind of like the smaller company, the smaller guy, um, versus the bigger banks because, people who don't have to go through a whole corporate structure, they can kind of, relate to you on a more personal level instead of banks who just look at numbers, numbers, numbers. So, yeah, just going off of that, what you were just saying with what all you guys look at, how much does organized financials and documentation impact whether a loan gets approved smoothly versus if someone just hands you a box of receipts or hands you something that's unorganized? How much does that affect whether financing goes through?
I'll tell you this, the amount of times I've had deals fall through because the documentation wasn't there, it's unbelievable. One of the things that I see people doing on the phone, because first time my first contact is through the phone, I get information from them, and I always, I'm like, I ask for information and I ask for honesty. Okay, go ahead and provide me with, to the best of your knowledge, give me information. Things like how much you have in liquid, how much, what does your FICO look like? And you always have people that they'll say, "Oh, I have 100,000 in the bank," but when it's time to collect, bank statements, they only have 15, 20, right? So one of those things, it's not, I guess, lying about it or and there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's we're trying to help you. You don't have to lie. Say you're making so much money. You're not trying to prove anyone. You're trying to get into real estate. It's an investment. So you can have everything. You can have everything set. We send you preliminary terms. Once you approve that, that's when we begin document collection. This is when we think you collect things like ID, experience form. We have, rehab budget form. And and for some people, I guess it is a little more difficult to kind of match that up because what goes on preliminary terms has to match up with the documentation you're providing. So if the purchase price comes to 250 and you purchased it for 270, that's an automatic no-go. Everything has to match. The
Yeah.
documentation has to match what you're saying because in real estate lending, especially private money, we want to make sure everything's aligned. There cannot be room for error.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening, that's why bookkeeping matters. So, self plug if you need good bookkeeping, come to me.